so I'll call it to order 7:01. And this is the I wish it were March, April 13th, 2016 meeting of the North Bennington Prudential Committee, taking place in the library at the Village School of North Bennington. And our first order of business on the agenda is public comments, and there is a person who wishes to make comments, so we'll listen to. Take it away.
Thank you. Basically, as a parent, I just wanted to quickly address the Act 46 issue and briefly submit my desires for which direction I'd love to see the district go in. I know there's been talk about leaving MAU and becoming a K12 Choice district. I know there are many other parents that are extremely interested in that route, and as a parent, I know I'm extremely interested in that as well. I am not sure exactly what the Prudential committee needs to do to make that happen. I have a good idea on some matters, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of public support for that. It would be wonderful to have choice so that if children in our district want to go to MAU, they certainly could. And but if that doesn't fit their needs for their children, it would be wonderful if they could have a choice to go somewhere else.
Well, thank you, Heather.
And thank you for your work.
Thank you for attending the meetings you've been attending. Since you were at the Act 46 meeting that was here in the library, and you've been at the study committee meetings.
That's for you.
And being very vocal and articulate about what you want. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Mary. How are you? Yeah. So, do you want us to respond, or do you, because we were proposing keep this, and let Matt respond.
I am curious
He
to
will.
know, from the Prudential standpoint, if there's wheels in motion, what exactly is happening in terms of where we're going.
Well, I think it's about as unclear as it has ever been.
Okay.
I think there is agreement within the committee, Prudential committee, that that's what we would like to do. So I don't think there's really any, I don't think there's even, I think we're fully unified in that desire. However, as you know, we're dealing with the constraints of the law. They're causing different things. I did just hear from chair of a board of Winhall, who spoke to their superintendent, and it was agreed among them. What we knew was apparently Mr. Colkeen was not fully aware of, is that they're not going to let us be part of any committee, study committee, until we are out of the MAU. And
when you say out of the MAU, you mean the study committee,
both, out of the MAU district and out of the study committee. This is what we knew all along. I think we spent 2 weeks treading water when we were told that, or the last week anyway, when it was suggested by the superintendent that we could join another committee.
Right.
I knew that was baloney, and I'm not sure why that was floated, except to maybe cause some delay, which then gave time for the other boards of the Act 46 study committee to come to a realization that maybe they didn't want to act so hastily in specifically BSD's desire to dissolve themselves from the SVSU.
Now, has it become more clear if we can be released from at least the study committee by virtue of just a letter from the study committee, or does the entire committee have to dissolve?
I have not heard a word about that. I know it was going to be explored, and the answer was going to be provided by the next week's SVSU meeting.
Okay.
I think the SDSU has to release us by disbanding the committee. And
And they could reform the committee.
they could reform it in a way that seems, to fit the direction that they feel they can go in.
Is there
But
any, I'm sorry.
they have not, if I read the tea leaves today at the meeting of the joint sort of select board, SDSU administration and anybody who wanted to come meeting, was that, they're not thinking in those terms. They're not thinking in terms of going the route that BSD suggested they wanted to go a month ago.
Is there any progression in terms of both the study committee and people in the SU comprehending that a non-operating district cannot merge with operating districts? Because they cannot move forward unless.
I do not know how clear that is.
Okay.
I think it's clear to the superintendent. I think Stu Hurd understands it, and Dan Monks.
I think the superintendent understands it fully, but believes that there could be exceptions made at the state level for us, which makes me very nervous to wait until it's too late to hear that there's no exceptions being made.
Right, and then my conversation afterwards with the ex-Shasberry board member was, he was questioning me about why we needed to go the route to be free K12, pre-K through 12. Because he thought, which I believe, he may be correct that it's possible to, at the nth end of this, where everything has been, where you've made good faith effort and the only thing you can come up with is staying exactly the way you are, that then, okay, we could stay the way we are and they could all stay the way they are. But that same person is also very interested in choice arrangement for Shasberry, so I'm not sure the point. We have to talk some more about this. And personally, I think the best solution for us is to be choice all the way, because we could join with other choice districts. Currently, we can't join with other choice districts, and we can't there is no likelihood, I think, of attracting anybody who is roughly like us. There are 3 others in the state to come to our direction. They're too far away, and they've got their own issues.
Has the Prudential board looked into obtaining legal counsel at all to see what our options are in terms of breaking from NAU?
We have a couple of names. We have not made contact with them. So we could, in fact, add another name to that, because a member of the firm that represented the village school early on, before the State Board of Education, is apparently doing work in this area. So that's a third party that might.
Along those same lines, how confident are we that the entire Act 46 study committee has to dissolve before we can be released?
We're not. That's
We
what
aren't.
we're
That-
waiting.
that was
We're
one
waiting for
question that was gonna be
our
asked.
own council is
Right.
going to, our SVSU council is going to speak to that, hopefully. So I don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't actually know. I thought, was that one thing that was supposed to be asked of Stitzel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask Mr. Colkeen this evening. So
Has
we
the
don't
state been
know if
asked
we're,
directly? Has the state been asked directly? Can we do that? Or is that the purview of the Act 46 committee?
You would not be provided a valid answer. It would be better for, I think, the council to make that request and then come back with it. Because there've been many answers, you know, for anything that people get to.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust an answer from the state board on that question.
And it would be good to get it in writing to be formal.
Right,
Yeah.
that's all I was looking for.
there was talk of getting the author of this, the actual writer of this act, to come down at that meeting. Do you remember?
To come to the SVSU meeting?
To come down and brief this Act 46 committee. Was it there?
Well, one member, I believe one community member, I believe, reached out to Russo Savage.
Yeah, that's whom I mean.
And
I was struggling for the name, so
again,
thank you for supporting it.
I don't know, that would be up to the chair of the committee to make that request. And
Mhm.
I don't know what value it would really be anyway, because, you know, they've been in contact, the SU, I mean, everybody's in contact with her about
Mhm.
multiple
Right.
issues, but if she wants to make the trip, that'd be nice, I guess. We'll get Mr. Representative Sharp to come down and bestow his wisdom on us.
Mhm. Well, Russo Savage is engaged by the agency to advise districts on this proposition, so I think she'd be the more appropriate person to talk to. So, if it sounds like we haven't made much progress,
That'd be
pretty
correct.
much,
Well, no, I understand, it's a lot to muddle through,
yeah.
and thank you for your work on it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of disheartening and unsettling because my stupidity in saying we should join this committee is hamstringing us, so,
I think we all came to that conclusion,
yeah.
that it made sense, and it still might.
And if the law's not clear, you know, we couldn't have known.
Yeah, we at least do have access to some resources to answer some questions. And I don't think intentions are real clear in other districts. I mean, I think Pownell's got pretty clear intentions, but it's not real clear what directions we can go, given, I think there is some diversity. You know, I think North Bennington and Shasberry have North Bennington's we're pretty solid about what we want to do. Shasberry has some interest in changing their direction, and that would alter the whole calculation for the Act 46 study committee, if that were a real possibility, or if they really wanted to pursue that strongly.
With the exception that it would take time for them to do what
It would
they
take time, yeah.
need to do.
I assume you're talking about them becoming a non-operating district.
Yep.
Certainly from our point of view, another alternative, if they're interested, it might be to support a reorganization of MAU so that they would have 7 through 12 choice. And certainly I've heard them express that, and that might be something that could be done in a more timely manner. It's still going to, we're still going to face a vote with the MAU, but it doesn't preclude the possibility that they could at least have, if they still wanted to pursue becoming not operating, they could do that at a later time or as time permits.
Now, you sent me an email about several things, and
Yes.
one of them was about a MUD, a modified union district.
Right.
And you pointed out that for that to come about, you would have to have a majority of the elementary districts determine that they would join the MUD,
Yes.
that they would disappear into the MUD.
Right.
Now,
I-
is that just one
That's
vote?
can't make it up.
or that's,
Or is it possible for there to be a vote on the idea that you're proposing? I guess you can't, it's probably pointless to do anything but work toward one vote that clarifies the whole thing, settles it, sorts it out, right?
yeah.
But it seems odd because the likelihood is that, what I'm thinking is, if you had it set up so that, say, 3 districts were going to join the MUD, and 2 districts were going to stay independent of the MUD, and that was the proposal that was put out there, and you voted on that, would be the proposal, instead of voting on a MUD and 2 districts defeating it and 3 districts going ahead with it, which would allow them to go ahead without the 2 districts.
I'm again, I'm not a lawyer, but it appears to me from what I read in that section, all of the elementary districts would have to vote on becoming,
To join,
to join.
and they could vote yea or nay.
They could vote yea or nay. If a majority vote yea, those districts that voted for it would become part of the MUD. And there's nothing said about the other districts, but my assumption is that they would remain part of the union, but would not be absorbed into the.
Yeah,
into
I'm just thinking
modified
that's a really complicated set of votes.
Yeah,
And if you could construct, the districts could come up with an agreement with it said, well, we know 2 districts are not going to go into it, but 3 districts want to go into it, and you vote on that proposition. Why wouldn't that work?
I don't know that you couldn't do that. That's not the way it's
Of course, that-
described.
Yeah, that would have to go, would that have to be pre-approved by the state board?
Oh, right. And it looks to me like it'd have to be put before all of those who are members of the union district.
Right.
That seems to be.
That as a proposition, but it.
So that those side districts have a say in whether this.
Right,
modified
so-
union district is formed.
So you could have the cross wind of other districts saying, well, we don't want you to do that.
Yes,
Right.
that's right. They wouldn't have any power over it evidently if the majority of the districts
Vote.
do agree that they want to take that course.
Okay,
It looks to me like if a majority of the districts approve it, then those districts that approved it become part of the modified union district. So you're taking a chance that way, and also it does nothing to dissolve the union district. So if we want out of the district, that's not gonna help us.
The
Because
mud
we're
won't
sti-
help us. The defeat of the mud won't help us.
No, that's right.
We're just stuck with being
We're part of the modified union district, but we're still an individual district attached to it rather than
It doesn't
dissolving.
actually dissolve.
I
As
think you
political.
could have a series of votes. The first vote is does everybody vote to dissolve the union district? I mean, NAU, that's the first vote. Second vote is, the second vote is, does your district want to join a MUD?
Right. Well, then you wouldn't be talking about forming the MUD, you'd be talking about voting to join a new union district that's a K12 district.
Right.
Okay.
And hadn't, I guess my concern on that is, hadn't maybe 6 proposals or so gone before the state board that included both choice and operating districts been shot down, all those proposals that went before
Yes.
that included both?
Yes, but this structure doesn't really combine a non-operating district with an operating district, or a tuitioning district with a non-tuitioning district. Those that would vote to join the modified union district would basically disappear, and they wouldn't have choice either. They'd be part of a K12 union district.
Okay.
So the two, or the remaining districts that voted not to join would still remain with it, whatever enrollment structure they had before. They just would only be part of the union district and wouldn't disappear. They'd still be, just like we are now, sending students to MAU.
Okay.
Yeah.
And excuse me, I actually have to go pick up our daughter.
So that would not be an option that we could
It
pursue if we
doesn't
wanted
seem to help us at all.
full choice.
And I'm quite skeptical that, that would mean that 3 districts out of the 5 that are part of MAU would have to agree to disappear and become part of this model. I don't think Shaftesbury or Pownell or particularly are inclined to do that.
Right.
So again, the clearest course for us and to solve the problems of BSD and MAU is to have a vote to dissolve MAU so it can be reorganized as a K-12 district with whoever wants to join. Now, if you did that, then of course, then there's a question as to whether Shaftesbury, Pownell, and Woodford, who all have similar structure and a governance structure that's a preferred structure, which is K6, would be interested in merging.
Right.
They could then become a single district with whatever high school choice structure that they wanted to have. In other words, they could either continue to be, they could sign up to be part of MAU, be 712 with a public school, or if Shaftesbury and us wanted to seek other options, Shaftesbury could say, we're not interested, we'll stay as we are operating our K6 and be 7 through 12 choice. And we would then be K12 choice. So you could then see that becoming part of a modified supervisory union with 3 side-by-side districts.
Yeah.
One's K-12, one's K-6, 7 through 12 choice, and one's K-12 choice.
Right. So
Whether, I don't know whether something like this is worth proposing to the study committee or not. It's hard for me to, I think they would see, if it comes from us, they're gonna say, well, you guys just, want it out of MAU. But in fact, both BSD and MAU have a problem. BSD is K5, that's not an approved structure. MAU is a 6 through 12, which is also not an approved structure. They need to merge in order to be, the only structures that are recognized are K12, K6, K8, and K12 choice.
So if nothing happens, we just hang in there and say, we like the way we are, we think we're sufficiently consolidated as we are, and that's what we propose, then we have not just our problem, we also have MAU and BSD in terms of their structure being issues.
I think we've tried to make that point, and
Yeah.
I think this is where we've been wanting to go all along. But now what you're saying, and it's starting to come focus for me, is that you're looking at really emulating what BRSU is doing,
Exactly.
where they're taking in and being a holder of all those
They are
different
gonna have every
approved
structure.
structure.
I take it back, I don't think they got any K8s in there, but they're gonna have all the other structures that are listed as preferred structures in Act 46.
Sunderland's what's Sunderland?
I think,
No, they're not K,
Okay.
they're K6.
It's certainly possible
And
that they're
whatever.
gonna represent all 4, but they're gonna at least represent 3.
Okay.
And it's all gonna be under the umbrella of BRSU.
And which will still be a supervisory union,
Yes,
side by side.
that's right.
Makes perfect sense.
It
So it won't go anywhere.
does. I'm concerned about how we move forward with the study committee to at least try out this idea. I don't want to come in and make a proposal that appears to only benefit us. And certainly one of the ways they're going to see this is if we did this, we would be the only K12 choice district. So we're kind of hanging out there in terms of we haven't merged with anybody. So the question is, what sort of concessions could you make, or what sort of arrangement or governance structure could you create where this supervisory union has certain powers that we might relinquish as a district? Don't ask me what those are exactly. It'd have to do with tuitioning structure or other questions. We just have to talk about how that would work. But it does seem to me that it might be a discussion worth having.
But
If we
now
can find a way, if we can find the proper venue in which to discuss it. Again, I'm hesitant to just,
Maybe Whitford would see that it makes sense
yeah,
to join us.
possibility.
You need a chair?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you can even join us at the table if you want.
Thank you very much.
So for now, let's move on to, we maybe revisit this now that Jim's here, if we have other questions about it.
Right. So we deviated into our report on the Act 46 public forum, but we can go back to it later, and I think we'll pick up business that we
Let's do it.
left live for the moment. Now, the next item on this agenda is adopting a board code of ethics. If you look at this thing, it's really written from the perspective of an operating district.
I think it comes from the Vermont School Board Association, correct?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is normal stuff, and I don't have a problem with it, but some of it refers to stuff that we wouldn't do because we don't have a school to administer.
But it includes the things that we need to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that I would make a motion
Yeah.
to adopt it and sign it.
Okay.
Second.
Does anybody want to comment, or shall we just vote?
Let's vote.
I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Do you have a copy of that, Lori? by any chance?
I believe,
Just here, but I
Except
could
for my
print
name is
something.
spelled wrong.
I have one for you all to see.
Your name spelled wrong?
Yeah,
Whose name is
I'll
wrong?
take-
Yours? Oh.
Yes. That's it.
Marie.
No.
Tim's
Well,
name is
it's-
spelled wrong too.
It is. He's an SCA.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
SC, yeah,
SCH,
you're
yeah.
right.
Well, I'm signing it anyway.
I had the same in one of the Shaftesbury board members, their name spelled wrong too.
You're safe.
I'd normally think mine would be misspelled, but it's not.
Mullen's one of those ones that you think is
Someone
going to be
pays
hard,
attention to.
but it's an easier one.
I probably shouldn't do that in green, should
I could take this down and make copies, so take it in there and make copies. If you want. All right, there's finance section, budget status reports included, treasurer's report from March. Mary, since you're here, are there any comments you would like to make?
No comments on the current budget. It is pretty much standard. There's nothing out of the ordinary here or in the one that you'll be voting on tonight. I will mention, as I did last night, that we are down to 21 properties with delinquent taxes. amounting to, including both village and the school, interest and penalty just under $40,000. There are 3 properties in there that account for 60% of the delinquency. And one of those properties I made some contact with today. So hopefully we'll see that
And we
moving
had a
along.
closing on a property that had been delinquent for a
It
long
did?
time.
And that is collected.
Fantastic.
And then in another 6 weeks, we'll begin to start looking at where we might need to go for tax anticipation borrowing,
Okay,
so that we'll have that in before our June meeting.
okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions about that? Any of those reports? The consent agenda is next.
You had one question about that transfer.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's in the consent agenda, though.
Okay, yeah.
It's not the finance
Right.
report.
On the transportation.
Yes.
This is in there, which they're telling me that you're underfunded in that line item for transportation. But the finance office advised me that we're gonna have to find the money for that.
Well, it's not
cost.
surprising you didn't have a transportation budget whatsoever. Because we don't have budgets.
Right. That's right.
So this is for a particular student, I take it?
Correct.
Okay.
The top sheet right there.
So is this something we should, I figured we would have an executive session about a student matter and we can talk about it then, I think.
Sounds good.
It's all understandable.
Okay, so consent agenda. Where is it here? Minutes and warrants. Minutes from 3/09/2016, last month's reorganization meeting, and warrants for April 2016.
I'll make a motion to approve both.
Second?
Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion about either of those items? Seeing none, I'll call the question on approval.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's the consent agenda. Policies. These are warnings for visits to schools. Policy number 1020. Do you want to comment on it this time, John?
If we're just warning, probably not, but I'm probably not gonna support either one of these when we come to a vote. That's neither here nor there, if we're just warning it.
Okay. And the other policy is number 5145, condom availability. So,
For the
does
middle
someone
school
want
and
to?
high school, I presume, or for the high school?
High school at this time.
Yeah. It's pretty much open-ended. This board could adopt a policy, but we're not likely to, so. Shall we warn them at least?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to warn both policies 1020 and 5145.
Okay.
I'll second.
And we'll save our discussion until when it comes around for passage. All right. All in favor of warning these
Aye.
two policies?
Aye.
Got it. Okay. Now we're back to report on Act 46. And we could throw in the
I
superintendent's.
was
And we can
wondering-
roll the superintendent's report into it, because that's really what,
Why don't you go,
Yeah.
why don't you go ahead?
the only thing that I've been really working on lately that's pertinent to this board would be Act 46. And so as you probably are aware, the SVSU Act 46 Study Committee has pledged to continue operating, which I think is a good thing, as long as everyone continues talking about what options there might be. And there's also a number of other groups that
seem to be having interest in it. One that you and I attended, I guess it's a regular meeting for you guys at Bennington College last week, and then the Bennington Economic Development Partners, economics, a good quality school system plays a big part in the economics of a community, and that recognition is out there. Last week at the Act 46 Study Committee here held in this room, the idea for that's a mouthful, a modified unified union school district has been floated out. And it's something without that name we've been hearing at many of our public forums, that the Mount Anthony model seems to be working well. And that is what that is. It's a union school district, as you're aware. The modified unified union school district would be if the elementary school districts voted to join the union middle school, high school district. That is an option under Act 46. It's right under there with alternatives such as reds and things like that. The process, from what I've come to understand, is, just as this has really started to gain a little momentum, is that it would require a vote by all the elementary school districts that are in the union. If the majority of those schools, the communities of those school districts that pass it, then it happens. If those that voted not to join, then they're still an outlier. Then what happens to them in 2019 or 2018 when the Secretary of Education comes down, don't know. The deadline's a little bit more accelerated. That proposal has to be into the Secretary of Education by July 1 of 17, operational by July 1 of 19. You're eligible for all the financial incentives, including the transition grant, which could be up to $150,000, and the 8,642 cent on the tax rate. I don't know where North Bennington fits into that mix either, and that's always going to be what we have to continue to address and see why. In my view, I can't understand why you can't continue the way you are and be part of this, and whether the law would allow that, because it's an alternative structure, and we could propose it that way. That still preserves what's dear to you is your school choice for now, pre-K through 6. So that, at central office, I've had a number of meetings the past 2 days to start seeing what that looks like with all our administrators, and generating talking points on that for a discussion at the next SU meeting, which is, I believe, the 27th of April. With the thought that what we're going to propose is let's expand the Act 46 Study Committee to actually begin this type of discussion too, and kind of vet through it fairly quickly to see if it is an attractive option, since the time clock is ticking on this, and if it's not, then we got to discard it and see what our other options are. So it's different than what is the conventional merger under Act 46. As we all know, we're not pursuing an accelerated merger, which would have happened. This is one of the other. The school board structure, if you read the Act 46 paperwork, and this is well before my time, the structure is allowed by, so there's proportional, there is district-wide, and there's hybrid boards. The Mount Anthony board is a hybrid board, and it is recognized in Act 40, in the worksheet for Act 46 for this provision, for this modified unified union school district. And what that is that there's specified membership by each town, but voted by the entire district. And it even cited the Mount Anthony versus Barnes Barnes versus Mount Anthony 1975. That's cited in the worksheet as that was a Vermont Supreme Court case that challenged how that makeup went, and the Age of Education has ruled that that is still a valid. So that I think Matt discussed that, and the town manager from Bennington had discussed all of those as a possibility. So we're going to pursue it, see where it goes, and like I said, but we also got to, because I'm starting to get concerned about timeline.
Bruce, could you repeat and speak to that's kind of the one, well, first I'll mention that it is clear that we can't be part of another study committee. Well, at least the study committee we wanted to be part of it said they're not going to have us under the conditions, under the situation. And Bruce was away actually the last week, so he's missed a couple of these discussions, but he came back and before you showed up was speaking
That's
to.
right, you warned me, it was
He-
your slide presentation. was
That's
there.
right.
That's right. I'm thinking, no, he was there, but yeah. Right.
And Bruce kind of laid out this alternate, which to me really sounds very much like, you lay out the issues of not doing something, which I think is really important for everybody to finally understand. And then you laid out a plan that looks very much really like a BRSU structure with multiple side-by-side options. And can you speak to that?
Yeah, I looked at the MUD structure too. Came up in other discussions that others have had with AOE, and there are a couple of issues there. Being that, as you say, what happens to the outlying districts? What happens to the ones if there's not a unanimous vote to form the MUD? These districts that are outside that, what is their future? They're still related to the Union District. but
Special
not-
ed services and all of that, yeah.
Right. So, when I looked at that, it looked to me like there was another possibility. Perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's only wise to pursue that after we've discussed the MUD. See what if people are concentrating on that now. That's fine.
I'm not saying, that's a direction we're looking at rather recently, so I'd love to
Okay.
hear what else.
Okay,
that you've
and
been
it
looking at.
may be good to look at that and exhaust just how that would work. It does seem that there are also there are several concerns in terms of preferred governance structures as laid out in Act 46 that not only pertain to us, but they pertain to BSD and MAU as well. Since MAU is now a 6 through 12 union district, that's not part of the preferred structure. BSD is a K5, which is also not part of the preferred structure. It's only, you're either all choice, you're K6, you're K8, or you're all public operating district. So what BRSU is doing is laying out basically all of those structures under their SU structure. They're going to have some that are K12 choice. They're going to have some that are, at least I know, are K6, and then choice 7 through 12, and they're going to have others that are K12 operating districts, all under the SU's governance as side-by-side districts. It does seem that something like that would be possible here as well and would solve some of these problems that we have SU-wide with preferred governance structures. So, as I say, I think it's,
So how does the governance structure look under what the RSU is doing?
they have side-by-side districts. I think there are 11 districts all together. They're consolidating to, I think, 5 boards. And basically what it is 4 merged districts that have each of these structures and then the SU board. So,
So if we did something like that, then would we be looking at 3 boards?
I tried to get it to 3, it looks
Yeah.
to me like it's 4.
4.
But
because
still we
of-
go from 7
Is
to
it
4.
because of Bennington having they're sixth graders at Mount Anthony, so that would be
Yes.
one structure.
Yes,
The Mount Anthony board's the other structure. Those that are pre-K through 6 are another structure, and then those that are non-operating is the fourth.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. Actually, yeah, actually, I was thinking only of those three, that there would be the K12 operating district, which is BSD and MAU.
Okay.
It would be K6 operating 7 through 12 choice. That could be Shaftesbury, Pownell, North Bennington, or excuse me, Shaftesbury, Pownell, Woodford.
Mhm.
And then North Bennington would be K12 non-operating. Now, that assumes that the three K6 districts would be willing to merge into one unit.
Mhm.
That's where the consolidation or the mergers come from.
And also, if you were gonna give choice to Pownell, Shaftesbury, Woodford, wouldn't they have to be able to withdraw from MAU then?
Yes,
So that would be
it'd be a
continued on.
reorganization
But
of
MAU would not exist.
Yeah,
Right.
or
That
it
would
would be
already be
reorganized
resolved.
to be basically a K7 through 12
Mhm.
district, that all the others would, I'm sorry,
By seven.
it would be K12.
Okay.
The others would be willing, would be able to tuition
So on
7
your,
through
so
12.
BSD and MAU merged to become one new board, is that
Yes,
pre-K through 12?
yes.
Yeah. Or
And
it
then-
could include Pownell if that was their choice, I mean, it would be,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, or Pownell might choose to join with Woodford and Shaftesbury as
Mm-hmm.
a single K6 district
Mm-hmm.
that also sent students to MAU. And they might or might not choose to
Yeah.
join.
I think there's one other possibility, which is that some people in Shaftesbury seem to be interested in going our direction, so it's possible that Shaftesbury could join North Bennington as a non-operating district.
Yeah, that, and we know that the time constraints
frame would work with that, but-
argue against that, but they could do that later
But
on.
first,
if
they
they
could
chose.
Time constraint and what's the probability of the Secretary of Education approving that?
Well, it's not against the law.
No, it's not, but.
And they have the right under the law to close their school and become a non-operating district.
They can't stop it.
And I'm not
as it
convinced
stands.
that consensus goes throughout the community, but we've never.
No, no,
they've
no,
never
no.
Oh,
put it
no,
out
I'm
to
not
vote.
saying,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all.
And that's why I think his point is first, they might be interested in exploring the middle school, high school choice, which they would before, and still be part of that larger group, and then have time to explore their options other than that. Meanwhile, being able to write into the charter that they keep their schools, right? All
Right.
those other things that are important to the individual towns.
Right.
Well, as far as simplified,
Well, it's slightly
It is,
simplified.
Yeah.
it
Your
gets rid of
feet got
that
fewer
non,
words.
that K5 thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to go back,
Nor
and-
does the 6th.
nor does the 612, so
Yeah.
you get rid of that.
and as far as simplified, I find the modified, unified union school district a simpler model, but I'm not saying everybody would agree to it, yeah. As far as reconfiguring charters and aligning, getting,
Right.
at least 3 of the school districts would have to change how they're currently operating
Right.
type thing, so that, and I don't know if we really have the pulse on where all those towns feel on that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree, and
Yeah.
that's something that's gonna have to come out in the discussions. Hopefully,
Mhm.
people will be willing to speak
Yeah.
frankly about where they think their community
And I
is.
think Matt said it, but he was attributing the quote to you, and I think this is an important thing to, I keep saying the clock's ticking, but I think the conversation about what doing nothing is going, what the impact of that is something that, is driving this and moving the conversation.
Right. And frankly, I think at some point, the state board will be more interested in widening their view of the proposals rather than deal with the aftermath as well. I don't think we're at that stage yet, but I think at some point, if they're looking at 50 districts that they have to figure out plans for, they may be willing to
Yeah. Because
for a
I'm trying to,
reasonable proposal.
I read too many documents. It's not unattached, but there's a term that they have for,
Orphan districts.
yeah, that are still out there. But no, even for supervisory unions that do nothing by 2018.
Yes.
There's an other name for that about,
Yeah.
yeah,
I can't remember what it
yeah.
is either, but basically it says.
unorganized or, whatever,
Yes.
but basically we're non-compliant with it.
Right.
Yeah, the orphan district's clear, and that's, in my speculation on the, and I shouldn't really speculate, but on the modified union, modified union school district. So say Pownell voted not to join, so what happens to Pownell?
Good
I
question.
would speculate that by 2018, the Secretary of Education would make a recommendation that you need to join here. You know, they're not big enough to, or somebody, they're not gonna let them stay beyond 2018 or 2019 out there by themselves.
No.
And
No.
no district can cause, no new union can cause a district to be orphaned. So
Yes.
we wouldn't be able to reject them if the state said, you
Right.
gotta now add them in.
Right. It's, well, what's unclear there is if the secretary starts his reorganization, who gets to vote on the proposal? Does it go, I mean, she gets to make a proposal to the state board. The state board gets to approve it, but then does it then go to a local vote? For all the other plans, they sooner or later have to be voted on.
Right.
I would assume that her plan would have to be voted on as well, but that's
Yeah,
not clear in the law.
I don't see that clearly in the law. It almost implies that if you don't take a vote or action by a certain date, you lose your say in this. and-
Right.
Yeah.
Though that could be a really contentious.
Could there be
issue.
lawsuits from that? Yeah, could be.
Yeah, could be.
But you don't lose your ability to say, well, we want to stay non-operating or operating
We're
K6,
clearly protected.
whatever.
Yeah.
Clearly protected until they
Till they decide to change
coerce and
that.
create enough incentive, as we've seen already happen with votes. Communities have had to very, I think, very begrudgingly decide to give in.
So
So we're gonna-
From
I
that,
think
there's
this,
two
I think, well, and I think this mud discussion is a good one to have. And see,
And if it doesn't
from my
work-
point of view, we see where that goes.
If it
and then
doesn't
we
work
talk
or isn't
about
gonna be
other-
accepted, the sooner we find that out, the better.
Absolutely. And can move on to something that might satisfy everybody.
I'm trying to find one size fits all is not working.
Yeah.
No. It didn't work for BRSU. And they had considerable more complexity than we do.
Yeah.
Add to their complexity that they're this week looking for an interim superintendent.
Yeah.
They are?
Bruce, last time, I think you were drafting a letter to the study committee. Can you give us an update on what happened with that?
Well,
Yeah,
The-
basically, we presented the letter, there was discussion about it. A motion to dissolve the study committee was tabled at that time, and then they came to the meeting here that I wasn't at, but basically decided that they would take the option that we proposed, which is let's keep working together and see what we can come up with, rather than
For some
disbanding.
clarification, in the interim of the time that we proposed a motion at Bennell, Jim asked that we wait, table it, we did. Then I believe some discussions were had with BSD, who were the other people interested in dissolving, where it was brought to their attention maybe that there were some things that they hadn't thought about. And so then they decided that they would be voting to not stop the committee, which then, it was clear that it wasn't gonna pass.
Yeah.
And so I recommended withdrawing the motion, but it couldn't be withdrawn, I guess it had to be killed, and so whatever, that Jeff Leake from Shaftesbury.
It's still just tabled. That was
It's,
the
well,
response.
tabled to death, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much,
You know,
yeah.
a new motion would need to be made and, you know, because there was a realization that, you know, once again, frankly, I don't think, I think there are many districts that haven't put a whole lot of thought, at least up until that point, into what's really gonna happen. And I think this pushed the issue enough that the people kind of go, wait, you know, we've really gotta start digging into this. I think North Bennington knows what they wanna do. We don't have any better idea of knowing how to do it than those who don't know what they wanna do, or know that they don't wanna do something.
So we do have I can take 10 members of the Act 46 Study Committee.
I just found this out yesterday, to Brattleboro on Monday, whatever the last Monday of April,
27th?
25th, is it, maybe, is that the Monday? I don't have a calendar in front of me. 4:30 in the afternoon is the time slot we have been assigned with this
Okay.
thing.
Is this with Lisa Savage or?
Russo said.
Yeah, in Nikki South. She's the one that organized it, so. So, last time we went, the group that I took up from the Act 46 study committee, I could only take 5 in August, and it was the Secretary of Education was present too, so I don't know who is gonna be there to answer our questions and hear what but that, I hope, is gonna be an opportunity, so she told me in an email today I can take 10 people, so I'm gonna put that out to the Act 46 study committee. And if they can't make it, my encouragement would be to select somebody else to go.
Send a surrogate, that was my question.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause we could ask Bruce to go.
Yeah.
That's
If you want to send Bruce in your place, yeah. I don't have an
Well, there's not
objection.
even 10 members on the board. on
No,
the
there
committee,
isn't,
so-
no. I think that counts me too, so now,
Right.
yeah. So I'll be sending out an email on that to the committee tomorrow. I got the date confirmed, but
That's
just the
Monday
time.
25th.
4:30,
What's the time slot?
4:30 at the Marlboro Graduate Center in Brattleboro.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right.
Yeah, I can email it to Matt.
Anything else? Jim, you got anything other than?
No? Any questions you have for me?
Let me think. Chair, got anything?
I got something, but I thought we have a guest here, and I'm not sure whether she had a reason for coming to speak to us or what. So.
She's with me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Ride home.
Promised dinner afterwards.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Well, let's get you out of here as fast as we
Yeah.
can.
I have,
The 25th was
4:30.
4:30. So go ahead and do your,
save it.
okay, so the only things I really have to say are, I'm considering doing some modifications to the residency application based on something Matt sent me from Stratton. And I would send it around to, I don't think it really has to be moved or anything but at a board meeting, but you might have comments about it. Then it's time to redo our tuition agreement. Now, last year, we struggled mightily and we came up with a sort of a tuition agreement form, which I anticipate using again this year with a kind of a filled-in blank approach. And last year, Matt and I negotiated this. I nearly got killed in the process because everybody nearly jumped on me. So, but ultimately, we came up with a good agreement. This year, I don't think we have to do any of that stuff. So I think we just have to have a brief meeting and make sure we are in agreement about how to fill it in, and provide that to central office so that they know what they're following. And then the other issue, oh, yeah. I think we need to have a hopefully 5 or 10 minute executive session on a student matter. And then I think we ought to have a small resolution afterwards to just authorize me to sign or to designate someone to sign an agreement about this particular, the education of this particular child. So.
I'll make a motion to go into executive.
Do you want to just,
Yes. That's fine.
and then email it to me or
Sure.
something?
Sure, sure.
You have a
Yeah.
second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can't save it.